pick was selected, they signed another point guard of Ty Harris. Now, I'm here to tell you, they signed another point guard today, which lead me to believe Raven Johnson experiment could be coming to an end, and they might be getting rid of Raven Johnson, possibly because they could be going into what I think is going to be a tryout type situation. Now, I'm not saying that is the case, but by them signing another point guard today, which I'm about to pull up for you guys right now.
The Indiana Fever appears to be shifting course when it comes to the Raven Johnson situation. The franchise stirred up a massive wave of frustration among supporters after selecting the South Carolina point guard in the draft. Whether or not the pick was the right call, the reality is that this decision has brought a flood of bad press to the organization. The Fever are not a team that handles negative attention well, and the backlash has been non-stop since Johnson's name was called at the podium. Things have been trending downward for the team's reputation ever since.
Them signing another point guard today, which I'm about to pull up for you guys right now, it really had me scratching my head. So this is the other point guard that the Indiana Fever has signed today. If you guys have not heard, it's breaking the damn internet. Now, from my understanding, this will be, I believe, the fourth point guard or guard on the roster, maybe fifth. But this tells me that they're probably finna have a battle type situation for Raven Johnson to remain on his team. Now, with that being said, with all of these different damn point guards, what does that mean for Caitlin Clark?
Prior to the Johnson selection, Indiana had already brought in point guard Ty Harris. Now, the team has gone ahead and added yet another point guard to the mix, which raises serious questions about where Johnson stands on the depth chart. The roster is now stacking up with what looks like 4 or possibly 5 guards. That kind of crowding at one position points toward an open competition, and Johnson may have to fight hard just to hold onto a spot. It is a bold move from a front office that seems to be sending a quiet message.
With all of these different damn point guards, what does that mean for Caitlin Clark? To me, it looked like they could be preparing for Caitlin Clark to possibly lead his team in the next coming years. Maybe, because I don't see why in the hell they will have this many guards on their roster for no reason at all. You know, Caitlin Clark is arguably the best point guard in all of women basketball. Then we got Kelsey Mitchell, and we got many other players. I don't know what Stephanie White is doing, but
with all these guards being collected, the bigger picture comes into focus around Caitlin Clark. The thinking is that Indiana could be building around Clark as the clear centerpiece of the franchise going forward. There is no other obvious explanation for why a team would stockpile this many players at the same position. Clark is widely considered the top point guard in women's basketball. Alongside Kelsey Mitchell and others on the roster, the guard situation is becoming very crowded, and head coach Stephanie White has some tough calls ahead.
Other players. I don't know what Stephanie White is doing, but to me, it's something very eerie that is happening with the Indiana Fever, and I think that they're starting to realize they might have screwed up drafting Raven Johnson off end post. I definitely believe that was an end post type draft pick, but I don't know. Guys, we just gotta have to wait to see how all of this is going to play out.
Like I stated, this is the Timmy news that broke yesterday. So as you guys can see here, Timmy Figman-Lay breaking free agent center. Timmy Figman-Lay has agreed.
The overall feeling is that the Fever may be coming to terms with the fact that drafting Johnson was a mistake, possibly a reach based on off-court factors rather than pure basketball fit. On another front, Timmy Figman-Lay has agreed to a 1-year contract with the Toronto Tempo worth $1 million, according to her agent Marcus Crenshaw. Figman-Lay, a 2017 WNBA champion and former standout with the Valkyries, lands a solid deal but will not be returning to Indiana. Many fans felt the Fever should have found a way to bring her back, though her price tag apparently played a role in the team passing. The broader conversation this signing sparks is about the state of the WNBA market right now.
Breaking free agent center Timmy Figman-Lay has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Toronto Tempo for $1 million per her agent, Marcus Crenshaw, a big payday for the 2017 WNBA champion and former standout with the Valkyries. I'm happy for Timmy, man. She got some money. It's very unfortunate that she could not come back to the Fever. But ultimately, you know, I'm all for these ladies getting their money. Somebody said, yeah, this is why the Fever did.
A number of people have pointed out that teams seem to be throwing around money freely, with role players and bench contributors pulling in contracts that would have seemed outrageous just a couple of years ago. The concern is that this kind of spending could damage future free agency cycles and push teams into uncomfortable salary cap situations. Three-time WNBA champion Alyssa Thomas has signed a one-year deal with the Dallas Wings. Dallas had a strong offseason overall and now possesses two of the most recent #1 overall picks. Adding Thomas gives the Wings a player who brings rings and leadership, a genuinely major addition for a franchise that is clearly on the rise.
The Fever didn't sign her because of the experience. Did that say $1 million? This market is cooked. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the WNBA market actually overpaying for a lot of players. So, chat, how do y'all feel about the market right now? Has it been a lot of players being overpaid and they're completely ruining their salary cap and just throwing money around? Do y'all think that it's hurting?
Meanwhile, the Valkyries moved Aerial Powers to Seattle, a trade that many felt Indiana should have pursued. Powers seemed like an ideal fit for what the Fever are trying to build, but the organization did not make a move. Caitlin Clark's latest sneaker release dropped at 10 inches the morning and sold out almost immediately. The shoes, part of the Kobe Edition line, were teased by Clark herself on social media the night before the drop. The speed at which they cleared out was remarkable, once again showing the commercial pull Clark carries beyond just the basketball court.
That is hurting teams. Well, I shouldn't say hurting teams, but the way these teams are paying the players could hurt free agency moving forward. So, like, let me know how y'all feel about that, chat. Because I don't know. You feel me? I don't know. Now, Alyssa Clark, three-time WNBA champion Alyssa Clark has agreed to a one-year deal to join the Dallas Wings. Dallas putting together.
Circling back to the Raven Johnson topic, a clip from the prior season featuring comments by Caitlin Clark has resurfaced amid the current controversy. When asked about racism directed at players in the league, Clark was direct. She made clear that no one in the WNBA should have to deal with hateful language, threats, or disrespectful behavior online. She drew a firm line between actual fans and what she called trolls, calling the situation a disservice to the players, the organizations, and the league as a whole. She also pointed out that there are many genuine supporters who have followed the league for decades alongside newer followers, and that the best response is to keep pushing the league forward in a positive direction.
To join the Dallas Wings, Dallas putting together a team, man. Clark brings experience and championship pedigree to a surging Wings franchise that had a productive free agency and now boasts the last two #1 overall picks. Big signing for the Dallas Wings. Not even gonna lie. Then we just talked about the Timmy Figman-Lay move. Now the Valkyries traded.
For Clark, the WNBA's players were her role models growing up, and that connection is what drives her to keep representing the league well. The spending patterns across the league remain a hot topic. Comments from fans and analysts alike suggest the market has lost some discipline, with even fringe roster players commanding seven-figure deals. The question being raised is whether teams are prioritizing splashy signings over long-term roster health, and whether the salary structure as it currently stands is truly sustainable moving forward. There is a significant concern surrounding the Indiana Fever that does not get enough attention.
Not consider her a center, albeit she did play reps at center last year for the Dallas Wings. I still don't think she's the greatest center. And then, like, Monique Billings isn't really a center. Like, I don't really know what the Indiana Fever are trying to do here. In terms of, like, pure size, they have none of it. Like, they actually don't have any of it. And, like, I'm looking through, even when it comes...
Last season, plenty of people pointed out that the organization was unprepared for a Caitlin Clark absence, and somehow, the team found a way to stay afloat and perform at a reasonable level. What is happening now, though, is a different kind of exposure entirely. The numbers tell a worrying story. Should Aaliyah Boston be unavailable for anywhere around 40 to 44 games this season, Indiana could find itself on the outside of the playoff picture. The central issue is that there is no dependable player behind her at the 5.
I'm looking through, even when it comes to training camp, they have none of it. Like, they don't even really have A team versus B team size for like training camp games. Like, you've got KK Timpson, who's beyond lost. Demir Stantis, Mo Billings, and Leah Boston. That's the only things that kind of resemble any size. And Aaliyah's
Temi Fagbenley cannot fill that role properly. The idea of deploying 6'1" Maisha Hines-Allen as a starting center is not a real answer. Minnesota tried a nearly identical arrangement a few years back and it did not hold up. Hines-Allen is a reasonable 4, and she did see some center minutes with the Dallas Wings last year, but slotting her as a true big is asking too much. Monique Billings falls into the same category. She is not a center by any honest assessment. The overall lack of height and weight across the full roster is striking.
any size. And Aaliyah's not big. Like, Aaliyah's 6'3". It's not like she's short or anything. I'm not going to be out there and saying Aaliyah Boston's is like too small to play at the 5, because she's not. But like, she's not a big 5. And we have seen the Indiana Fever really struggle, and Aaliyah especially really struggle with those bruising bigs. Like, she has really struggled. Thankfully, they don't really exist that much anymore. She has really struggled on the defensive end.
Even at the training camp stage, the team does not carry enough size to run meaningful competitive drills between two groups. The entire collection of players who come anywhere close to filling a front court role consists of Fagbenley, Billings, and Boston, and even that group is thin. KK Timpson has looked completely out of her depth. Boston herself checks in at 6'3", which is not undersized for the position, but she is not the kind of imposing, physical 5 who can hold ground against the league's biggest bodies.
Thankfully, they don't really exist that much anymore. She has really struggled on the defensive end with Tiara McCowan. She really has struggled, albeit on the other end, she has cooked Brittany Griner. I'll give credit where credit's due. On the other end, she has absolutely cooked Brittany Griner, but she has really struggled dealing with Brittany Griner on the defensive end. Like, this is a finesse big who struggles against size. The Indiana Fever have nobody to deal with certain teams. Like, they have nobody.
That gap has shown up repeatedly. Defensively, Tyra McCowan has given her real problems. Brittany Griner presents the same kind of challenge on that end, even though Boston has had genuine success scoring against Griner on offense. The pattern is consistent. Boston is a skilled, mobile big who can be worn down or pushed around by opponents built with more mass.
Like, they have nobody to deal with the Chicago Sky. Like, I'm looking at, like, the playoff competing teams. I think they might struggle with the Connecticut Sun, you know. I think they might struggle with Ono and Brittany Griner. Like, there are teams, and it was just like, again, in Caitlin Clark's rookie season. I understand they went 2-1 against them, and, like, Aaliyah and Caitlin killed them. But, like, they really struggled with the Dallas Wings, who had Kalani Brown and Tiara McCowan.
That weakness carries real consequences when looking at the teams Indiana is likely to face in a playoff run. The Chicago Sky are a tough draw for this roster. The Connecticut Sun creates similar problems. And going back to Clark's debut season, the Dallas Wings featuring Kalani Brown and McCowan together gave the Fever consistent trouble even when the overall result was manageable.
Struggled with the Dallas Wings, who had Kalani Brown and Tiara McCowan. They've really struggled against those type of teams. And while Aaliyah excels against the A'ja Wilsons of the world, like, she does struggle against size, and the Indiana Fever have no answer. If a team is able to have size, which is why, again, Aaliyah has struggled against John Quell, it's really difficult one looking at the Fever and seeing how the hell you can compete with Aaliyah as kind of your one center.
Boston and Clark were able to produce, but the strain in those matchups was visible. Against players like A'ja Wilson, Boston holds her own well. Against Jonquel, Jones, and others who combine size with skill, the limitations come back into view. The front office's thinking around the front court is genuinely hard to follow.
As kind of your one center. And, like, Mo Billings is definitely not a Alana Smith can play the 5 if needed. Mo Billings is an out-and-out 4. She's not really that. Like, I've seen people compare her to Temi, but I'm like, offensively, she's significantly better. And like Temmie's a 5 defensively, sure. She's kind of a 4 on offense as much as anything. She was a rim running 4 playing with Aaliyah. And like that's what people have said. They were like, okay, can you get like... That's why people wanted Alana Smith, because they're like, Aaliyah can start playing inside out. And
Alana Smith can technically cover the 5 position in certain situations. Billings, meanwhile, is a 4 through and through. Some observers have drawn comparisons to Fagbenley, but Billings brings noticeably more offensive capability. Fagbenley, while useful as a defensive 5, has always functioned more like a roll-and-cut 4 on the attacking end when playing alongside Boston. That is part of why there was such strong interest in landing Alana Smith, the theory being that Boston could operate more freely in an inside-out capacity while Smith absorbed the physical punishment from opposing bigs.
at like... That's why people wanted Alana Smith, because they're like, Aaliyah can start playing inside out, and she's someone who can defend 5s. I think Aaliyah is a really good player defending 4s. And the thing is with Aaliyah, is that it's very evident from Unrivaled, she's in the best shape of her life. Like, she's got herself into almost like a power forward shape. And I understand it's better to have her as an advantage, have the speed at the 5 as an advantage, but there's no backup. Like, Damiris Dantas is not a competent backup. Michaela Timpson is not a competent backup.
Watching Boston during Unrivaled made one thing clear. She has put in serious work on her body and looks closer to a power forward build than ever before. That transformation gives her a quickness edge against slower 5s, which is a genuine weapon, but it still does not solve the depth problem sitting directly behind her. The most unpredictable piece on the entire roster is Maisha Hines-Allen,